Did you hear that? Did you? Yeah. Oh my gosh, there must be an owl nearby. Because that was what that sound was. Definitely wasn't me. So that is what our program is going to be about today. We are going to be talking about owls, but not only that, we are going to be taking a walk through Schmeekly to try and uncover their secrets today. But first, before we start off, I want to begin with a story. Because when I think of owls, they kind of have this presence to them. I almost get a little bit of a chill down my spine when I hear those calls out in the woods at night. I don't know about you, but sometimes it's a little spooky. And I have a story that actually takes place right here at Schmeekly Reserve last summer. So, in the story, I need some props. Okay, so picture this. Last summer, it's really a lot warmer than it is right now. And I was attending a summer field experience where I was going out into the woods and doing things week to week. And one of the things they wanted us to do was to take a night hike when it was pitch black. They were like, we want you to get out there at nighttime and really experience it. And they're all like, okay, like we've done that before. They're like, you're not actually allowed in Schmeekly after dark, but for these purposes, we were allowed, but don't come here after dark. But we were here, and when we got here, it was already pitch black, so like, close your eyes, that's how dark it is, very dark. And we only had one light, so we had a headlamp, and it was my headlamp because no one else brought a flashlight. So we'll put this on, just so you get a little bit of a visual of what we were doing. So, I have my headlamp on, and we're like, okay, so our purpose was, we're going to go out into Schmeekly, and we were going to spotlight for deer, which means you're going to have your light on, and you're going to kind of be looking through the woods and counting how many deer you see. Obviously, there are a lot of deer in Schmeekly, so that's like every 2 steps, you're like, yep, there's another one. So that was our main goal, but they also wanted us to try and use an owl call to see if we could hear any owls call back. So they gave us this kind of recording of an owl that we were supposed to play every time, every few stops. But we got there and it didn't work. It didn't even turn on. There was no calls were playing, and we didn't have what I had at the beginning of this program, any kind of owl call at all. So we were kind of like looking at each other like, does anybody know how to like make an owl call like with your own voice? And it's a lot harder than you would think to make a realistic owl call. So we kind of just assumed that we weren't going to be able to see any owls, or not see, but even hear any owls, because we didn't have a call working. So we went on our way, we started spotlighting for deer. There's over there, and mark it down, just kind of trying to have a fun time. And then we're like, well maybe, it's part of the assignment, we should just attempt some owl calls just to say that we did it, we were really adapted to the circumstances. So we attempted a couple along the way. They were really bad. Each of us tried to do one, and it wasn't working, and we were also kind of just talking the whole way. So we're ending up kind of near where we were going to end on our trail in Schmeekly, and we're like, okay, let's try one last time to make an owl call and see if we can hear anything. It'd be really cool to hear something, so let's all try. And there was one guy in our group that had not yet tried to do an owl call. He's like, I think I can do it, okay? I've heard yours, I think I can really do an owl call. Okay. So we were all quiet and sitting there, and he does attempts a barred owl call. It was so bad. It sounded as like chickens and monkeys, like a combination of many animals. And I was like, well, that's not going to work. But we're like sitting there. And then to the left, suddenly, was the loudest, one of the worst noises I've ever heard, almost like someone screaming. And we all were like, gasped. And my single beam of light shoots to the left. And all we see is the rush of an owl disappearing into the night. And I could not believe that an owl actually came, especially for that kind of call. So to me, it's like this owl was maybe hearing us the whole time and was like, I'm not calling back. Like, these are terrible calls. But at the end, that was like the last straw where it was like, okay, that's enough, get out of my woods, kind of their last stand. So that was last summer, and that was a pretty interesting experience I had with an owl. That kind of gave, again, this kind of elusive nature to them of like, they're always around, but they're only going to make kind of noise when they want to make those noises, right? So I think that's another reason why they kind of find their way into our stories and our movies, because a lot of people have had similar experiences, or they just hear them out in the woods when they're walking. So that is our story. And on our way to our first stop, where we're going to kind of see if we can find some owls here in Shrewsbury on our own, I would like you to think about what owls use, what kind of senses they use to maybe detect us like that owl did in Shrewsbury in my story. So how do they know that we're there? So we're going to think about that on our first stop. You can all get up and follow me. I'll take you to where we're going. Did anyone think of some senses that owls may use to help detect our presence on our walk over here?
What do you think owls use
Any
to
ideas,
tell that we're here?
guesses? What kind of senses do owls use? Oh, I see some vision, definitely.
Other than
What
the
else?
eyes, what it does.
They can see up close.
Right,
What else do they
really
use
good
to-
vision. Good answer. Any other senses you can
Or what's
think
on
of?
their head that they use?
Yeah. Hearing, right? They have really good hearing. Yes, owls have amazing hearing. Actually, I know this, but their ears are a little different than ours. So they don't have ears you can see. Some people think like great horned owls, they have those puffs. Those aren't their ears, those are just feathers. Their ears are actually holes that we can't see. And something pretty funky about their ears is they're asymmetrical. So put your finger up here, kind of near your forehead, and then put your finger kind of back behind almost your jaw. So that's where their ears are. They're not straight across like ours, right? They're in different spots on their head. So why do they have ears in different spots on their head? I was wondering that too. Do you have an idea?
Because they want to hear things up higher.
Yeah, that's a really good guess. So yeah, when that sound comes in, right, they're gonna hear at different times, right? If there's one up here and one down here, the sound is hitting their ears at different times. So it helps them almost kind of be able to triangulate where the sound is coming from, whether that be prey or whether that be us, who maybe they're trying to avoid. So we actually have an activity to demonstrate this. Anybody would like to volunteer? I need one volunteer. You can do it a couple times. Anyone? You want to mark it? Yay! Thank you so much.
Had all the way.
No, she wants to volunteer for an activity. You don't want
No,
to.
you don't want to. That's okay. You don't have to. Anyone else? No. Anyone? You want to do it? Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, perfect. So here's what you're going to do. It's really easy. Okay? So you have to close your eyes and promise not to pee. I promise. Okay. So I'm going to make a noise, right? And you just have to point where you think the noise is coming from. Does that make sense? Okay. So yeah, just point in the direction. Okay. Ready? Nice. So you got almost all of them right, which means you have really, really good hearing. But there's one little bit of almost like a blind spot. So when I tap right here, it's almost like you hear it out in front of you. So you got them all right except that one, which is what's supposed to happen. Because you know how our ears are just straight across? So because our ears are straight across, we kind of have a little spot where we can't hear. But if you turned your head and suddenly your ears were all wonky, you probably would be able to hear right in front of you like that. Isn't that neat? Yeah. So do you want ears on two different sides of your head? Does that sound good? Yeah? Me too. I want better hearing. I'll put an ear down on my neck. That's fine. Thank you so much for volunteering. So that's a little yes. Awesome job. So that's a little demonstration of how owls hear compared to our hearing. And now that we're here, I think we should try an owl call. How's that sound? Sure.
Yeah.
All right. We're in a spot for one of my favorite owls. They really like the habitat we're in. So let's see. Hear their call. Alright, I'm going to play this call and then maybe you can even guess what type of owl this is. I'll play it one more time. It's kind of cut off. I know, it does kind of sound like a rooster. Any guesses on that type of owl?
Barn owl?
Did you say barred?
Barn.
Yes, correct. That was a barred owl call. Awesome guess. So we can kind of remember that call owl because it sounds a little bit like saying, who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all? So that's how we can remember the barred owl call. You can try it. Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all? Can you kind of hear that? I'll play it one more time just so you can kind of hear the mnemonic device. Want to hear that? Yeah. It's a good way to remember. It's the only way I can remember.
That tremolo.
Yeah. And so, I'm not sure there's a real owl out there, but we do have our friend, the barred owl. Getting away. So this is our medium-sized owl here in Wisconsin, and some people think get it confused with a barn owl because the name sounds really similar, but they're actually called the barred owl. This is not exactly what they look like, so I have a picture that's a little more realistic of why they're called barred. So they're called barred, and I'll start over here, because of these dark bars on their chest. So it's like dark bars against light colored feathers. So that's where they get their name. Not barred, but barred. So they really enjoyed the type of habitat we're in right here. So we walked through the wetland, and now we're kind of in a woodsy area. So barred owls really enjoy kind of hanging out on the edges of wetlands because they'll feed on things like amphibians, fish, and other things that are going to live in land. So if you really want to see a barred owl, it would be good to go out kind of near a water source that also has a woodland nearby. And you can maybe try some of those calls, maybe do it on your own, and that's the best spot to see a barred owl, our first owl on our tour here today. So on our way to our next stop, I would like you to think about the ways that owls move, and maybe specifically how they move so slyly. And how do you move around when, like, say it's really late at night, you want to go down to the kitchen, what are you doing? Kind of keep that in mind as we make our way to our next owl stop here. Way over here, I asked you to think about some ways that owls might be moving around, or how we move around to kind of remain quiet. So, does anyone have any ideas how owls might remain silent? Yes?
Their wings don't make any sound.
Yes, we're absolutely correct. Perfect, right on the money. So she said their wings don't really make any sound, which is absolutely true. And there's a very specific reason or way that they do this. And I have a real owl wing with me today to demonstrate this. So I'll walk around as well. But they have these really interesting structures right on the edge of their feathers on their wings that are kind of like comb-like serrations. So it almost looks frayed. So I'll walk around and show that. Make sure everybody gets a chance to see how it's kind of frayed there. Yeah. You see that? So the comb-like serration is different than a lot of other birds, even other large birds of prey like hawks. They don't have this specific structure, and it kind of mutes the sound. So if you've ever heard a really large bird fly, you can kind of hear that swooshing sound, and you won't hear that at all when owls take off. So they have those comb-like serrations and the really kind of fluffy feathers that act like insulation and make their flight silent. And I have another demonstration to show kind of how that works, because I heard that and I was like, well, those little serrations make the difference, but they really do. So let's see. It's a pretty cool exercise to demonstrate this. I will just need one person who feels like they can spin a rope really, really fast. You feel like you can? Okay, so you'll grab it by this part right here. Okay, ready? And then swing it around really fast. Like this. No, you'll get it. Go fast, fast, fast. Faster. Oh. Okay. Keep going. We're both a little quiet. Here, I'll trade you. Let's see. Okay, you keep swinging that one around. Do you hear that one?
Uh-huh.
Do you hear that one?
No.
No, I don't hear that one. Now, what's different about the ends of these ropes? What do we see? What's different? Yeah, it's like frayed, right? Just like that owl wing. So if it wasn't frayed, you can kind of hear it when it swings around. But with this one, you can't hear it at all, right? Yeah, so that's kind of how it works. That frayed, it just silences in the wind. So amazing job spinning. You did such a good job. Thank you so much.
Good job.
Yay! So, like all owls, one of our owls that'll be talking about at this next stop has really big wings, and it's actually our largest owl. So be thinking about that, and I'm going to play a call for you again, and we're going to see. This one might be familiar to some of you. Let's play this call. One more time. Anybody recognize that one? Yes, you are an owl expert. Are you going to say that? Yes, that's that great horned owl. Do you know what that call sounds like? I hadn't heard this one before, but this is another memory trick. Does anyone know what the memory trick for this call is? Apparently, I can hear it now. Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
a
just
memory.
kind of what it sounds like. So what we can say to remember it is it's supposed to be, who's awake? Me too. That's cute. So that's how you can distinguish if you remember the who cooks for you all, that's Bard. And then who's awake? Me too. That's our great horned owl. And I think maybe we attracted a great horn. I don't know. Oh my gosh, we did it! There it is! Yay! So clearly larger than our other barred owl. Like I said, this is our largest owl species here in Wisconsin. It has those telltale kind of great horns on them. Yeah, did you know something?
The snowy owl also.
The snowy owl
That's
too?
big, yeah.
Yeah, really big as well. Yeah, you're totally right. So this great horn really enjoys the habitat that we're in right now. So right now this is a pine stand. So behind me we have a bunch of white pine. Over here we have another mix of pine. So these are going to be really good areas for a great horned owl. And they also like to have kind of like here an open area where they can hunt for food. So they'll eat a wide variety of things from really small mice and things like that to even other owls or geese, which I thought was crazy. They can get geese or skunks. So they are very, they have a very wide array of things that they are able to eat. So if you're looking for a great horned owl or wanting to hear one, it might be good to walk through some kind of pine stand at night and try it. So great horned owls, pine stand. That is actually. Show you a picture too, because again, I know these aren't the most realistic owls, but I have a picture just so we can all see kind of what they actually look like. So they have those yellow eyes, which are kind of my favorite part. Yellow eyes and a dark beak. And barred owls are opposite. They have a yellow beak and dark eyes. That's another way to tell them. See those bright yellow eyes? They almost look fake. All right. So that is our great horned owl. All right. Who loves to live in these kinds of areas. And they also, if you can see right over here, this tree, kind of like a dead tree, we also call it a snag. Those are going to be really good places to root for great horned owls, which means to have a nest or babies. And sometimes they'll even just steal the nests of other large raptors like hawks, and they'll make their own nest within a hawk's nest. So dead trees or tree cavities are going to be where they'll be raising their young. And and around this time of year is actually when the babies are hatched already, and so they're kind of having their young ones with them around this time of year. So that's pretty neat.
Do they like to nest so high off the ground, or?
Yeah, I would guess pretty high. I mean, if there's a kind of an open tree cavity lower, that would mean actually that might be a good spot. Like things like this, where the tree might not be dead, but if it's kind of like a tree cavity like that midway up the tree, they'll nest there. Well, that's pretty cool, right? All right.
So will an owl try to take over like a hawk's nest where the hawk is still around?
I'm not sure if they would fight. They might, because they sometimes eat hawks. So I wonder. I would guess if they could battle it out, they might end up taking the nest. But I know a lot of times they'll just use like the abandoned nest that's already been there as well. Yeah. All right. So we have one more owl stop with me. And it's actually going to be back to where we came. And you might not have noticed this, but on the way here, the environment actually changed another time before we got to this area. So on our way back, I want you to kind of look at the trees and see what you notice about the change in landscape, and that's going to be a clue on who our last owl will be. Sound good? Yeah. All right. Just from where we were before and where we started. In the landscape here, specifically the trees, kind of hard.
Hardly any pines here.
Yeah, so there's some hardwoods, all terrain.
Oh, it is terrain.
So there's hardwoods and pines, it looks like, which means this is kind of a mixed woodlot, which is really good habitat for our last owl, who is here somewhere. Our smallest owl species of Wisconsin. And it's called the eastern screech owl. Yeah. The screech owl. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, I should have let you guess that one. It's the eastern screech owl. So this one not only will hang out in mixed woodlots like this one, but they're also super versatile, and they will live even in like cities or suburb areas if there's nesting boxes or kind of within buildings if there's places for them. So they don't mind being closer to humans. They will kind of pick a range of landscapes, but if they are out here, they prefer the mixed woodlots. So let's play a call before I forget. This call is, it might be my favorite owl call because the first time I heard it, I was like, that is not an owl. So let's listen. Eastern screech owl, and I was like, is it gonna sound like a screech? I don't know. So, you said it sounded like a horse, which is exactly what I thought. It sounds kind of like a horse whinnying off in the distance, which I think is pretty funny. So they're kind of these very small, cute owls with a call that sounds like a horse. So I really hope, I haven't heard one out in the wild yet, but that's my goal. I really want to hear an eastern screech owl someday. So eastern screech owls, like all owls, have a pretty cool adaptation. What is it doing? Oh my God. Any guesses what this adaptation might be?
You can let somebody else do it.
Yeah, it's moving its head. Can we move our heads that far around? Let's try. Let's see how far we can move our heads. About to my shoulders.
You can't even get 90 degrees, really.
Degrees each way, so about 180 for humans if you have a good range. Sometimes you might can't even get it that far. But owls can actually rotate their heads about 270 degrees. So some people think it's 360 all the way around. That'd be pretty crazy. They could do that, but 270 degrees, which means they basically have eyes almost on the back of their head. Has your parents ever said, I have eyes on my back of my head, I can see what you're doing? That's kind of what owls have. So they are able to hear and see kind of what is happening and going on all around them. So we can kind of try this, and there's a reason for that. So I'm going to set them down. Owls' eyes are not like ours, where we kind of have, if we don't move our head, we have peripheral vision and we can move our eyes all the way to the left and all the way to the right without moving our head, right? We can move our eyes. Owls cannot do that. Their eyes are fixed in their sockets. Yeah. You can always go cross-eyed, right? All different directions. They can't do that. So that head swivel is really, really important. And if we want, we can try and see like an owl. So if you make your hands, it's kind of with binoculars, put them up. So this is kind of what it would be like if we couldn't move our eyes, right? It takes away that peripheral vision. But now, if we move all the way around and swivel like about 270 degrees, now we're seeing like an owl. So they can do that without moving their bodies. They can keep their bodies completely still, but have that rotation still, which obviously not only helps them hunt, but it also helps them see and avoid, us and remain elusive. And where they maybe hear us coming or they see us coming, they're able to take off with that silent flight as well. So that is another cool adaptation that owls have, typically not only eastern screech but also great horn and barred, which we talked about earlier. I know it's getting kind of rainy, and Now, I want you to think about, we talked about these adaptations that allow them to kind of escape us and not be seen. So I want you to think about on our way back, how do we even know they are there? What is left behind by these owls? And once we get back to the shelter, we're going to explore that. So let's get out of the rain and back to the shelter, or we can look at some of the signs. A lot of times we don't get a chance to see them, we kind of just hear them, but that's okay, because they leave some signs behind. Any ideas of the kind of signs we might be able to see or find if we're on a walk in the woods? Yeah, owl pellets. That's one. Any other ideas? Okay, so I have them show you. So the first one I have owl pellets here. You see that? You can kind of see the bones. So, what are owl pellets? Does anybody know?
Whatever they couldn't digest.
Yes, exactly. And some people think they're poop, but they're not.
They're not.
They're not poop, they're regurgitated. So you said it's whatever they can't digest. So bones, fur, all of that, feathers, yeah, it ends up getting really compacted and turned into these pellets. And I'll tell you, that's what it is. I have a couple more that you can look at if you want a better look at them at the end. I have a whole bag. Alright, I was actually out here like a couple weeks ago and I wasn't even looking for them. I don't know what I was looking for, wood frogs or something. And I was wandering through the woods and I'm not kidding, I found the biggest owl pellet I have ever seen. It must have been like this big to where I couldn't even believe. I was like, is that an owl pellet? And I'm like, weird, so I started like dissecting it and I found some bones and stuff in there and I was like, that is an owl pellet. And based on kind of the size, you can maybe tell what owl produced that pellet, and also based on the bones, if you're brave and dissect it, you can tell what it's been eating. So not only are they, also they kind of regurgitate these owl pellets about once or twice a day. So if you're seeing a bunch below a tree, that's probably a pretty good sign that that owl is roosting there. Versus if you just see one or maybe scattered about, maybe they're just in that area. But because they produce them so often, if they're below the tree, that's another good sign that they're going to be there. And I also have some of the other signs, just have many gadgets in here, lost about. But also, maybe these aren't as easy to find, but they leave those feathers behind as well. So that's another sign, maybe on your walk, if you're able to see one of these feathers, that there's probably going to be an owl in the area. So we talked about how they're really, really elusive today, and they kind of have all these adaptations to avoid being seen. But as we just discovered, it's not impossible to find out where they are as long as we keep our ears and our eyes open. So thank you guys so much for being here with me today at this program, for uncovering the owl secrets with me and dealing with the rain. I have some other props and things in my bag, so if you want to stick around or if you have time, feel free to come up here and look at the owl pellets. I also have some talons and a skull if you want to check those out. Otherwise, you can walk around in the rain if you want, or whatever you want to do. Thank you guys so much.